You know, we first started talking about just a small gathering. I'm so glad that it didn't turn out to be a small gathering. First of all, you have to know the respect that my assistant Honey feels for you, because you saw her when she came in. She used the Relief Society china and the silver, which she doesn't do because we gave her the first present. She will later, you know, have to deal with what we've done here, and I just really, that's a mark of respect for you. I also want to thank, I recognize, having known Susan Roylett since I came to the church 21 years ago, we've worked together a long time, and having to run into some of you and some of your colleagues at the United Nations when we've come. Church is relatively new. We were only registered at ECOSOC 2011. And your experience, your breadth, your the kinds of things that you have gathered and known over a long period of time is tremendously helpful to me and the staff at LDS Charities, because we may be even newer than you. But the church made a decision, and you think about apostolic theme. If you think about what the apostles are talking about outside the church, they're talking about interfaith dialogue and cooperation. They're talking about religious freedom, not just for ourselves, but for all religious people. They're talking about the strength of families, and they're talking about caring for poor and needy people. And so as I think about those themes, and Elder Bednar says an apostle's job is to look 50 years down the road. I don't know if the United Nations will be operating 50 years down the road, but what I know is the relationships that are developed in a global forum like this, and there are not very many global forums, those relationships pay dividends, and the Lord knows where those lines intersect. And the work that you're doing is tremendously powerful and important. And so from where I sit at the church and the Relief Society and LDS Charities, I'm so thankful for the work that you do. It's difficult. There's a lot of, you know, we know the way it's structured and we know how it's stacked, but it's still work that needs to be done. And I'm just so thankful that you'd be willing to do it. I happen to know from Baldomero and others, members of the church have put their reputations on the line who work for DPI to say, yeah, first one, you ought to come to Salt Lake City. And so, excuse me, I'm often in forums where there is the unspoken idea that religious families are somehow negative. They're somehow toxic, that this would be bad for society because they foster abuse and conflict and oppression, and they don't value education, and the balance of power between men and women is off. I mean, you know all of these things. So there's this feeling of religious families are probably negative. And the step back then is we should step back into civil society, and that will move people away from their difficult religious families. But the chance of this coming to Salt Lake City is for us to showcase examples of why religious families are constructed. And anything that we can do here to not talk about it, but to actually show. And that's the beauty that it came to Utah. Aren't we lucky that we can showcase actual practical things that are happening? So I know all of the difficulties about that, but if you can use the gifts of discernment and the Holy Ghost that are yours rightfully by your membership in the church, that this can turn into something different than anybody ever thought. We can change people's minds. It will take a long time, but I'm in this for the long haul. I'm in it for 50 years, for 100 years, and maybe so are you. So I want to express my gratitude, not just for today, but for all the collective work that is represented at this U-shaped table, and my commitment that we're willing to do what the apostles are doing. It's all about connection. It's about bringing people together who don't agree and helping them understand one another. And we live in a world that is going the exact opposite. It's polarizing people, it's ripping people apart, and this is one of the few chances that we have to respect differences, to have, you know, tolerance without tolerating the behavior and the activities that we don't want. But let's respect each other and let's bring groups together, and you can do that. I know all of you. I know examples that you can. And so my colleagues at LDS Charities and Public Affairs, we're just grateful to be part of this consortium. And I hope that maybe we would have a chance to meet after September, October, and talk about what we learned and then maybe what we'll do in the future. I just sprung that on off it, but maybe we'll do that.
You want another dinner?
We can host in the Relief Society. And maybe I could just leave my testimony as I work. I have a chance to work with the apostles more closely in the Relief Society, and I am so touched by their true commitment to witness of Jesus Christ through these kinds of interfaith dialogues. I sat at a table with Elder Perry before he left. It was some public affairs thing, and we had Orthodox rabbis that were there. And he said, and I wanted to record it forever, he said, we want Jews to be better Jews. We want Muslims to be better Muslims. We want Catholics to be better Catholics. We want people to live their faith, because faith is ennobling. And faith, civil society only hinges on people, the strength of people's families and the strength of their faith, because that's the only thing that really motivates people. It's their greatest motivation. You can't build civil society without working through families and faith. And I appreciated him saying that. And I know that part of their witness of Jesus Christ and his work is part of this work to bring groups together and to understand and to listen and to include, but to promote the values that we know will bring people happiness. So I just add my witness to theirs in a small way, and I leave this in the name of Jesus.